Thank you very much, Ido Sharir. Many years of suffering here as a student, many years of great service with President Peres. Peres family, distinguished guests. Shimon Peres of blessed memory was here at the IDC Herzliya conference several times. 2 years ago he was here as a fellow in the IDC, and his encounter with the IDC began late in life. When he was president, he loved what he saw here. The innovation, the initiative, the link between us was based on shared views, particularly about the future we want for Israel. But there was also a very personal link and connection that I don't want to go into, but it was the kind that is formed between people who share similar values. Peres had a fascinating outlook on the processes happening around the world and of Israel's place in them. He had an amazing ability, an extraordinary ability, to disconnect from the limitations of time and space where he grew up and was formed, and to look at the world in a creative way, completely released of the bonds of history. He had a complex and complicated personality because on the one hand he was a very well-brushed politician, but on the other hand he was also very emotional, poetic, creative, and he had the ability to see and envision places and ideas that are very far. And the deeper he delved into his position as the President of Israel, the more this side of him grew. This position as president allowed him to disconnect himself from everyday politics, that is all embodied in sweat, and to be more emotional, to talk about his vision as he never could before. When he was released of the burden to survive politically, he was completely committed and devoted himself to this mission as a visionary who was certain that the world can be steered toward a better place and to create a peace-seeking society. He saw the changes, the great innovation of technology around the world, how the weight of boundaries and territories was decreasing, and how important human capital and advancement became. And he thought that the state of Israel could become an engine of technology that would set in motion the wheels of the entire humankind. And he saw this Jewish mission and Israel in the universal sense, as said by the Prophet Josiah, that we can be a light unto the nations, a capital of justice and thriving. And like Herzl and Ben Gurion, he also believed that the state of Israel is much more than a solution to the distress of the Jews and can turn into the exemplary society that will be an inspiration to others. And he wanted to really make progress in that, to make Israel involved in spreading the news of compassion, of humaneness in Israel and the world. I thought to myself, how can I express all of this? And with your permission, I would like to quote an excerpt from one of Peres's lectures, which was really moving to tears, which is so characteristic of him and his mission. In January 2010, Shimon Peres, as the President of Israel, was under the huge symbol at the Bundestag, a symbol or logo or emblem, and he addressed the public on the International Day, Holocaust Memorial Day, and I would like to quote it. He began with an ancient Jewish prayer that they could not say or hear, those mothers whose babies were taken away, ripped from their arms, the fathers who watched with fear as their children were taken to the gas chambers, the children who became smoke in the incinerators. And Peres said now, and put a kippah, a yarmulke on his head, and before the audience and the political leadership of Germany, they all stood up, and he said, on behalf of the Jewish people, he said Kaddish. And then he said in his special language, he talked about the Holocaust, Today was the day of the liberation, the end of World War II. Today is the day that the sun came up for the first time after 6 years of darkness. This day, the smoke still came out of those bombed gas chambers, and the blood patches and ashes were still heavy over Auschwitz-Birkenau death camp, over the monstrous killings. A false silence came, but from the frozen earth a cry came out that pierced the hearts of many. Too late, 6 million Jews were no longer alive. In his speech, he laments what has happened, and then he expressed his all-human perspective, and I quote, "In order to prevent another Holocaust, it is our duty to educate our sons and daughters, to honor the life of man, and to have links between nations in an honorable fashion, to respect the particular culture and universal values, to reprint time and time again the 10 Commandments, to light torches, to direct telescopes and microscopes that will light up the science that is embedded in the healing of men's soul. Food for the hungry, water for the thirsty, air to breathe, and wisdom for mankind." At the end of his speech, he returns to our region and wishes for the countries in this region that they manage to put aside the conflict for their generations, their next generations, that a modern economy be established that will struggle hunger and terror and illness. And he adds, "I stand before you today as the son of a nation that aspires to contribute as much as possible in order to know a better, more enlightened, clear world, that one man to another be man." And he ended, "I began with the Kaddish, and I will end with Hatikva. We will not lose hope. Hatikva is 2,000 years old, our hope. That is the national anthem of Israel." So was Peres, a complicated, complex man with a single mission from the Jewish people. A visionary, seeing the Israeli society as potentially exemplary. We'll remember this man and will continue with his vision.